Hey everybody, it's Dr. Nicole. It is Friday late afternoon, about to be Labor Day weekend. I'm getting ready to head out of the clinic, but wanted to do a quick video for you about something that I think is really on a lot of parents' minds right now, and that is online schooling and what's going on online with kids who have more significant special needs. I will preface this by saying that I do not usually do live videos. And the reason for that is that when I get passionate about something, I tend to be a little less filtered than I normally am. And that can be a little bit of a dangerous thing. But I feel like this is important to address. I don't know how many people are even on Facebook at this point on late in the day on Friday of Labor Day weekend, but I feel like if this message reaches one parent who can benefit from it and who can then spend the long weekend maybe having a little bit more peace about the whole situation, then it will have been worth it. Because what I think needs to really get called out right now is the nonsense that is going on with online instruction and kids with more significant special needs. So talking about kids with more significant autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, cognitive impairment, learning challenges, multiple disorders, more significant emotional and behavioral disorders, kids who are outside the box of what we consider that goes on in typical education. These kids are often left behind in what goes on in the norm of school. Let's just be honest about that. Our school system, our educational system in this country does not do a great job of meeting the needs of kids with more significant special needs on a regular basis. But when we're looking at what's going on in the pandemic and what's going on with online instruction, these kids have been left behind even more. Now, there will be plenty of time in the future to dissect how and why all that's happened. And, we can say it's not fair and there should be different options and all that. And I get all that. But here's where we are right now. Many kids are not able to go back to their school buildings and they're receiving online instruction. I get that. My own kids are in that boat, so I understand that. And certainly this is a struggle for most families and most kids. But I want to specifically recognize the extra challenge that this presents for parents and families of kids with more significant special needs. Because what we have going on now, what we've seen in the last few weeks as kids have gone back to school online, and parents at my clinic are talking to us about this. I'm getting tons of messages from people on social media. I'm reading the posts of parents who are struggling with trying to make this work, and my heart is breaking for them and what they are putting themselves through. So here's the bottom line. A lot of what is happening right now in online schooling for kids with more significant special needs, it is simply a going through the motions to check the boxes and say we provided some kind of schooling or instruction. This is education or learning that is not really education and learning. These things are not developmentally appropriate. They are not meeting the targeted needs of learners who operate outside the box of normal classroom instruction. And I am hearing absolutely ridiculous things like parents being expected to have kids with significant autism and other kinds of neurodevelopmental disorders have their child sit in front of a computer for essentially the entire progression of the school day, starting with morning meeting right away at 9 a.m. and then progressing through the day. And they're supposed to have their kids sitting in front of the computer doing this. It's ridiculous. I'm just going to call it what it is. As someone with advanced degrees in education, in psychology, who has worked with children all along the spectrum of learning and development and social emotional needs in a school environment, in a clinical environment, this is ridiculous. And here's the bottom line. We all sort of inherently know this is ridiculous, right? Parents know it's ridiculous, but are feeling obligated to somehow make this work. Schools know it's ridiculous. When I talk to colleagues of mine who are in public and private school settings, they're saying, look, we have to provide something. We're being told this is what we need to do. We know it's not developmentally appropriate. We know it's not meeting their needs, but we have to provide it. Look, I get it. We all get, at least I would hope that we all get, that this is not an ideal situation and that this is not appropriate. But here's the thing. For those of you as parents who are really stressed about this and beating yourselves up over not being able to make this work and not able to sleep at night because you're thinking, how am I going to get my kid to sit there and do this tomorrow? I want to give you permission right now to step back and take a big, deep breath and realize that this is not you. This is not your child. This is nothing that is wrong with you or your child. You are being asked to do something that is not appropriate in the first place. What we've got going on is therapy and academic instruction and school that is totally developmentally inappropriate. And not only is it not meeting the learning and developmental needs of these kids, it's actually creating harm by massively increasing stress and overwhelm and processing demands, breaking down the relationship between parents and kids because of all the stress and all the unreasonable expectations. This is actually taking us in a worse direction than not having anything provided at all for many families. Now, if you're a parent watching this and you're going, gosh, it's working just fine for us, our schools got it together, the things they're providing are appropriate, we're not having an issue, wonderful. That is incredible, that is great. I'm not talking to you right now. I'm so glad that you're having a positive experience. I'm talking to all of the parents and the families out there who are not having a positive experience, who are stressed, who are overwhelmed, who are having kids with increasing behaviors and difficulties because of trying to fit the child into a mold that they do not belong in the first place. This is developmentally inappropriate practices masquerading as some sort of, quality education. It's just not there. So if you're a parent who has been feeling like this is not working, I can't figure out how to keep my child focused, I'm running around trying to corral them in the house to keep them in front of the computer, I'm having to move their hand to do things, I'm answering questions for them, I'm trying to force them to stare at the screen, but they're not really attending, they're not engaged. You're right. Trust that and recognize that you are 100% right, that this is not working and it's not helpful and it's not beneficial. And no amount of rewards or treats or whatever else is going to make this an appropriate learning environment and an opportunity for your child to actually learn. I've got some kids at the clinic and I've heard from some parents online who their school is providing a one-on-one paraprofessional to sit on the other end of the screen and do things with the child. Okay, if that works, great. For many kids, that's not working. Most kids who have significant neurological challenges, whatever their label may be, need to be immersed in real-time, in-person, meaningful activities in order for learning and growth to occur. That's appropriate. That's reasonable. It's not going to happen over a screen. I had a mom yesterday who told me that her child's ABA program through school is basically running all of their drills and all of their things that they do. And let me tell you, that's a whole nother video we could do on how inappropriate all of that is in the first place. But doing that now over the computer, and the child is not attending, the child is overwhelmed, the child is becoming combative, and the parapro, the person on the other end of the screen, continues to try to redirect the child, tell them they need to focus, threaten to withhold the positive reinforcement that they're dangling out there, their reward for that. And the parent's sitting back and going, this is not working. This is not appropriate. And they're right. And some parents are realizing now in sitting with their child going through this school day online that they really had no idea what was going on in person in the learning environment when their child goes to school. And they're stepping back and going, this isn't what my child needs. That my kid's totally stressed out. This isn't helpful. My child is going through the motions. They're not learning. Right. So this is an opportunity for some parents to go, wow, this whole thing needs to be reset. Not only the online version of this, but I need to reevaluate whether this entire classroom or curriculum or program or whatever is working for my child. And that can feel overwhelming. Here's the bottom line to this. As parents, we all have choices. And whether it's right, wrong, fair, or not fair, right now, if you are the parent of a child with significant special needs, whose child is not able to go into their school environment or therapy environment or whatever they were doing, you're having to navigate that at home, you are in a position of having to exert a significant amount of time and energy and effort with your child. That's just the way it is. Again, not arguing whether that's fair or unfair, it is the way it is. What I want to encourage you to do, if what's being presented to you from the school or from the therapist or whoever is something online that is clearly not effective, it is not helpful, it is not working for your child, step back from it and say, we're opting out of this, because you're going to be investing the time and energy and effort in one way, shape, or form anyway. And here's what I would rather have you do. Instead of trying to corral your child in front of the computer, force them to look at the screen, go through the motion of answering questions or filling out worksheets or whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing, and you knowing that they're not engaged and not benefiting from it, I want you to close the computer and I want you to say, I am going to invest my time and energy and effort in doing something that's more meaningful. And that may look like a lot of different things. That may look like you having your child go through the day with you and learning how to do and helping you to the extent they can with things that you need to do throughout the day. It may mean saying, we're spending a lot more time outside and we're going to play games and, ride a bike. I'm going to teach you to ride a bike. Maybe you've wanted your child to learn to ride a bike. Maybe people have told you they can't learn to ride a bike. Maybe the school's told you they can't learn to ride a bike. I'm here to tell you, kids can learn to do things when the adults have optimism and expectation for them to do it. So I have parents who over the summer taught their kids to do amazing things that the therapist said they would never learn to do. They just decided, we're going to learn to ride a bike, or we're going to learn to play the piano, or we're going to learn to make the bed or make our lunch or whatever it is. Now's the time, because you're investing the time, the energy, the effort anyway. Your child is home, they're not able to go to school or to their program or whatever. Invest the time, energy, and effort in things that matter, in things that are going to make an actual difference in the life of your child, for you, for your family now, and moving into the future. Think about, what would I like my child to be more independent with? Or what's a hobby that I'd like them to enjoy? Or what's something they've shown interest in that I feel like we can start to do more with? Focus on those things. The learning and the growth and the development that comes from that is going to be infinitely greater than anything that's going to come from sitting them in front of the computer and doing some kind of lesson or therapy or whatever. I promise you, as someone who has spent my entire career focused on children with these needs, focused on what is necessary for them to truly learn and grow, put aside the things that aren't working. It doesn't make you a bad parent. Saying, I'm not willing to try to get my child to sit here and stare at the computer screen when I know they're not getting anything out of it, does not make you a bad parent. In fact, it makes you a really smart, perceptive, and effective parent. You know your child better than anybody else. So opt out of the things that you know that your gut tells you are not working. That makes you a great parent. It's a little scary, right? Because you feel like, well, what do I do now? But you will find things to do. If you want to, ask the teacher or the therapist, say, not working for us in front of the computer. Can you give me a list of skills that you think are important to work on? Or if my child was in the school building, are there certain academic skills or certain life skills or certain things that you'd be working on? Give me, a list of those things. And you can take that and say, oh, how can I work this into the day together? But it's not going to be, an hour or 3 hours or 7 hours. And yes, there are some school programs that are saying that 7 hours in front of the computer, which is just not appropriate for any child, let alone a child with significant special needs. So ask them, what should we be working on? And then you say, we're going to do that in real time, in real life, in real meaningful activities that do not add more of a burden of stress and overwhelm to my child or to me. Because here's the thing, when your child is overwhelmed and anxious and stressed out and struggling to process what's happening, they aren't in a mode where their brain can learn anyway. And that's a lot of what's happening in front of the computer when I've got parents in tears, kids in tears, and kids, becoming combative. One mom said that she had to close the computer and take her child outside because he was getting so worked up during the first class of the day that she thought he was going to hurt himself. Nothing is worth that. And I promise you, nothing that is going to go on that computer screen over the course of the school day or the week or however many months we are engaged in this is going to be remotely important enough to justify a child becoming that distressed and a parent feeling like they have to override their gut instinct about what's appropriate and right for their child to make them do that. Nothing is worth it. So close the computer. The school program will still be there if and when you decide to send your child back, when it opens, however that goes. Some of you are going to decide to move forward and do different things permanently. You're going to go, you know what? I realize now that what my child was engaged in, in their educational program wasn't really doing much anyway. Look how far we've come. This is working a lot better now, and you're going to move forward permanently in a different way with your child and their education. That's great too. The important thing is to go with your gut about what works and what doesn't for your child. And just know, again, that a lot of what you're being asked to do right now is not appropriate in the first place. So don't beat yourself up over feeling like you can't make it work. Don't become exasperated with your child over your child not being able to focus and attend and do what they're supposed to do online and make it work. It's not their fault either. You're being asked to comply with something that is a complete mismatch with where your kids are developmentally and what's needed for their growth and their learning and their development. So step back as we head into this long weekend. Some of you have already been in school with your kids and are like, oh, I got to use this time to regroup. Some of you are anticipating starting after Labor Day, and you may already be anticipating, how am I going to do this? How is this going to work? Take this weekend to just reset. If you've already been struggling and been trying to do this for a couple weeks and realizing this isn't working, take a step back. Use this weekend to reset, to let your child relax and come down from all this, and yourself, to regroup, to say what's really important here. What are a couple things that we're going to focus on? Are we going to go back to this computer stuff on Monday or on Tuesday, because Monday's the holiday, or not? And let yourself regroup and let yourself feel good about whatever decision you come to with that, and really let your child be the guide of what's working for them. If your child is consistently more agitated, aggravated, less communicative, strained in their relationship with you, not sleeping well, not eating well, all of those things are signs that what's going on is not working for your child. If those things are going on, really take that in and acknowledge and honor what your child is trying to tell you with that, and choose to do something different. Whether that means something structured or unstructured, you decide. But a child spending the day with mom or dad or another trusted adult or whoever that's going to be, engaged in real life, moment to moment activities with plenty of downtime, plenty of time for movement, plenty of time for enjoyment and for focusing on real life skills. That's where it's at. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. So opt out of the virtual madness of all of this. Do not feel obligated to do things that clearly don't make sense. And don't assume that because these things are coming from people with degrees, people in education, people with therapy degrees, whatever, that automatically makes this the right thing to do. No. Trust your parental intuition. Let your child's behavior and how they're managing and navigating things be your guide for whether something is effective and meeting their needs or not. I think the last thing I'd want to leave you with as you head into the weekend is this. The research has shown that the most important thing, the most important factor for a child who has significant special needs, whether that's emotional and behavioral needs, neurodevelopmental needs, processing needs, whatever it is, the most important factor in whether they make progress or not is the parent's level of optimism that the child can learn and grow and change for the better. Take that in a minute, because we often feel like so many things outside of us are needed for our kids to make progress. The right therapies and the right therapists and enough time in school and all these things. And what really makes the most critical difference is having a parent with a level of optimism that says, my child is going to learn and grow and change and improve. And what an amazing and wonderful thing, because as parents, we have control over that. We have control over how we view that. And sometimes it's hard to stay optimistic, and I get it, especially at this point with everything that's gone on in the world this year. But just know that really the thing that makes the biggest difference in your child learning and growing and changing for the better is your belief that they can do that and it will happen. So enter this next week, and as we move through the start and beyond of this school year, armed with that knowledge that your level of optimism and your belief that they can and will learn things and grow and change and improve is what makes the critical difference for them. So I hope that this is helpful. Again, I hope that if even one parent who's been really on the fence, struggling, trying to decide what to do with their child, if this helped even one of you to think about this in a different way, or to tune in and trust your gut more, and to make decisions that are in the best interest of your child and family, then this will have been worthwhile to do.